Hello and welcome to yet another GeekyVerse video. Today we will focus on a topic very near and dear to our hearts, but I suppose we could say that about each of our videos. I want to talk to you about the current state of the two main publishers of comic books out there, namely DC and Marvel, of course, like you didn't see that coming. This video should be a general discussion of the topic, so no spoilers are supposed to be inherently present. However, I will give you a mild spoiler warning about major story arcs taking place up until the current date. Oh, and one more thing. Before the questions of whether I prefer DC or Marvel start pouring on, I don't prefer any of them. I enjoy great comics with exciting storylines, and you will probably find about 5 of DC and 5 of Marvel superheroes on my top 10 list, if such a list would ever exist. This video is also not intended to clarify who is the better or the worse comic book publisher, because such a statement would be absurd for a myriad of reasons, which I won't even pause to go into. It's no secret that DC's previous run, the New 52, which was succeeded by this year's Rebirth, was an iffy expedition to put it lightly, although I must say I enjoyed many aspects and books of the New 52. But that is not what this video is supposed to be about. Anyway, after the launch of Rebirth, DC's book sales skyrocketed, selling over 12 million copies this summer alone in term, completely dominating the overall comic sales, previously firmly in the grasp of Marvel. Now I wish I could attribute this solely to the brilliance of Rebirth, but I feel the reality, as always is slightly more complicated. Marvel has been doing somewhat I would call questionable choices at best regarding their characters and stories lately. Does it have something to do with Disney? Well, it could be. One thing is a fact. Disney has actively discouraged writers from writing new X-Men books and Fantastic Four books, since the rights to those belong to Fox. Now you are going to say, hey, what about Deadpool? He is at Fox too and sells great. Well, the income from Deadpool-related books and merchandise is plentiful as sand in the desert. So Disney is just going, what the heck, we still profit too much from this to let it slide. Same cannot be said for the X-Men merchandise or even the books, which haven't been selling too well in the recent past. Ergo, Deadpool can stay. Sorry, mutants. Now try to wrap your head around how bizarre eliminating the X-Men from the Marvel Universe is. One of the most iconic franchises seems to be slowly fading away from existence, as is hinted with the upcoming Death of X storyline, and not even with some greater excuse of it benefiting the universe somehow, as a whole or whatever. No, it's mostly just about copyright. Now at least the Fantastic Four had an amazing end to their story arc in Secret Wars, even if the main culprit was again copyright law, and they aren't really gone from the universe, they have simply been, how to put this, rearranged. That's the best I can do without spoilers. Simply slaughtering the X-Men does not seem so appealing, in contrast to that. Now I'm not saying that's what is going to happen for certain, and I'm almost positive there will be at least some survivors. But yeah. Now another thing I feel Disney might be pressuring is the diversity of characters. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not against that. However, what I am for is integrating new characters in a smart, overthought way that actually makes sense and not simply deciding, oh, Thor will be a woman now, for example, or we have decided Iron Man is now a teenage girl. I mean, hold on, what? Now I'm not even saying these books are bad. No, some are good, some aren't that great. That is not my point, however. The point is simply revamping old established superheroes of our youth into a more diverse roster of characters, which in some cases don't necessarily make sense, just gives me the idea of bantering to a certain audiences, rather than focusing on the actual stories. There are plenty of examples where integration of new characters made sense and was a welcome refreshment. The new Miss Marvel, for example, even Miles Morales as the new Spider-Man. Miles' integration was particularly well done in my opinion. It just made sense, and we still got to keep Peter Parker in an evolved role of sorts. The fault does not lie solely in the characters themselves. If we take the recent Civil War II storyline, hold it right there by the way, why was another Civil War even necessary? Not only did the setup barely make sense and served as an only excuse to pit heroes against each other, some of the events in this storyline were just mind-boggling and completely illogical. Those of you familiar with it know what event in particular I am talking about. For the rest of you, I will not spoil it. Now this seems like an entire video of me bashing Marvel. I hate to make it appear that way, but I'm not a fan of Marvel's current state. I loved what Marvel was doing up until and including the Secret War storyline. But after that, it just started to slowly fade. Now, that's not saying everything after that was or is bad. No, not at all. There are some great books still out. For example, Vision, Black Panther, even the new Steve Rogers as Captain America series is evolving nicely. Nonetheless, the overall state is not the best, and this is reflected in sales as well. On the other hand, DC has served up some great stories since the launch of Rebirth. Mind you, we aren't that far into Rebirth, so this might be a bit too early to call. However, so far so good. There has been stuff that leaves much to be desired though. For example, I thought the Batman book, which has always been one of the flagship books of DC, got off to a slow start, but seems to be picking up the pace slowly. There have been some great setups in the rest of the universe, however. Of course, the Rebirth event in itself was great, but I would also like to point out the Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps book, which I think was perhaps even my favorite Rebirth title so far. Recently, Alan Moore, arguably one of the best comic book writers of all time, criticized comics as well as superheroes of trying to become too relatable and trying to fit into the quote-unquote real world, a place they cannot possibly exist in. They are supposed to stay incredible and unbelievable, and that is why perhaps DC's formula of taking a more old-school approach worked that well. Now bear in mind, comics were made originally to entertain teenagers, but over the years their audience has grown up, but remained involved in them. You didn't have 40-year-olds reading comics back when they first started. This is simply one of the byproducts of evolution and relative longevity of the comics, and the topic for a completely separate philosophical debate, which I won't even try to go into today. Most of the credit for Rebirth's success has to be attributed to Geoff Johns, who decided to recently get involved more into DC's movie universe. Is that smart? Only time will tell. Fact remains, he single-handedly is just unfair, but he was definitely the main factor that paved the way for Rebirth's success. Can the other writers live up to his standards? Perhaps even exceed them? Again, only time will tell. That's it for me geeking out on this topic, while keeping it as short as possible. This is just my take on the situation. Feel free to completely disagree with me in the comment section below. Debate, present your own views, or even agree if that is how you feel about it. I encourage every debate since it helps shape the community in this modern digital age, and sometimes it has a profound influence on how comic books are being written in the future. Hope you enjoyed my insight at least a little bit. If you did, please subscribe to the channel, all feedback is appreciated, and I will be seeing you with another geeky video soon. Until then, take care and bye bye.